If the Norman lord who ruled this community was successful, and his descendants gained in wealth and power, it is possible that this fortified wooden village might have been slowly transformed over the centuries into a stone castle like this. But even though rebuilding with stone was fairly common, it is much more likely that this Norman village would have remained pretty much as we have seen it. That is, a well-defended village with a church and the Lord's larger house, plus about 300 acres of farmland, that, taken as a whole, came to be known as a manor. Manors were the basic building blocks of the economy of the Dark Ages and of the High Middle Ages that were to follow them. The method by which manors were distributed was at the very heart of the social organization of the Dark Ages that was known as feudalism. For in this era, social status and wealth depended on the number of manors that one controlled. Let us see how the feudal system worked. At the very top of the feudal system was the king, who in theory owned every manor in the land. Because the king's power was based on the strength of his army, he found it necessary to grant the rights to huge areas of land that possessed many manors to his greatest allies. These were the high lords, the dukes and earls. Let us imagine that there are 700 manors in the entire kingdom, and the king decides to keep 130 manors under his direct control, and to distribute the remaining 570 manors among the dukes and earls. He decides to give each of his 3 dukes a dukedom containing 90 manors, and each of his 5 earls, who are of slightly lower status than the dukes, an earldom that contains 60 manors. In return for the gift of his dukedom, each duke is required to provide the king with 42 mounted knights. Each duke then decides to keep 30 manors for himself and distribute the other 60 manors among 6 lesser lords. So each will receive 10 manors. In exchange, each is expected to provide the duke with 7 knights. To accomplish this, each lesser lord will keep 3 manors for himself and distribute the other 7 manors among 7 individual knights. Thus, in exchange for his occasional military service, each of these 7 knights will receive not only the manor's land and its buildings, but also the 5 or 6 families of landless serfs that will work the fields in exchange for the lord's protection and a share of the crops they raise.